I bought my first piece of land with no money in my pocket, no credit worth the name, and two little children looking to me to feed them. No bank on this earth would have let me through the door. And I want you to sit with that a moment, because if you are watching this and you feel that same hopelessness, that same closed door, I am telling you from the far side of it that the door is not the only way in. There is another way. I know there is, because I walked through it myself, and today I owe no man a mortgage on the ground I stand on. I am Romani, Roma. My people were travelers before me, back and back as far as the road goes, and I will tell you plainly why that matters to this, of all subjects. For hundreds of years, my people were not allowed to own land at all, shut out of it, moved along from every place we stopped. No bank would lend to us, no town would sell to us, and a traveler who wanted a patch of his own ground to stand on had to find a way that did not run through the front door of any bank, because that door was bolted against him and always had been. So if there is one thing my people learned in our bones over all those hard centuries, it is how a person with no money and no standing and no welcome can still, quietly and honestly, come to own a piece of the earth. That is the knowing I am handing you today. It was bought dear over a very long time by people who had nothing. So let me show you how it is done. And I am going to be honest with you the whole way through, including the one part that can go very wrong, because there are men who will teach you the sweet half of this and let you walk straight into the trap in the other half, and I will not do that to you. The hope is real, but so is the danger, and you are going to know both before I am finished. Here is the whole of it in one breath, and then we go slow. You are not going to buy land through a bank. You are going to find a person, a plain owner of a plain piece of ground, who is willing to sell it to you directly and let you pay them over time, a little each month, instead of all at once. They become the bank. That is the entire secret. It is called owner financing, and it is as old as land itself, older by far than banks, and it is how people bought ground for most of human history before the bank ever put itself in the middle of it. Now, the finding. This is patient work, and it suits a patient people. You are looking for land for sale by the owner, not through an agent, and above all, you are looking for those two words, owner financing. The bank is not going to give you a loan, we have settled that. So you must find the seller who is willing to be the bank himself. And where these deals hide is not on the big shining websites full of agents and their fees. They hide in the small places, the little local papers, the county sheets nobody reads, the notice pinned up in a feed store or a diner. I found my best deals in the smallest papers, the ones from the little counties. And here is a thing worth doing. Do not look only in the county you live in. Cross the line into the counties all around, the whole general area where you would be content to live, and gather up the papers from all of them. Then sit down at your table with a pen and go through them slow, every line, and mark what looks like it might be a door left open. It is quiet work, and it is free, and it is exactly the sort of patient looking my people were always good at, because when the front door is shut to you, you learn to find the ones left on the latch. Now, before you fall in love with some grand sweep of acres, hear the most important thing I will tell you about the size of it. Go small. Small, small, small. I mean it the way I would mean it to my own grandchild. You do not need what you think you need. Your mind paints you a picture of a great rolling spread, and I am telling you that great rolling spread is a great rolling weight of money and work and taxes and worry hung round your neck for the rest of your life. 2 or 3 acres is plenty for a homestead. Plenty. You can raise more food and keep more animals and build more of a life on 3 good acres than most men do on 30. And you can actually pay for 3 acres, and you can actually work 3 acres without it working you into the grave. The whole point of this is to get free, not trade one master for another made of dirt and debt. So go small and mean it. When you find a prospect that looks right, you telephone the owner. And here I will give you the plainest advice, because it is how my people have always done business face to face. Be honest, be friendly, be direct. Do not put on airs and do not tell tales. You ask him 2 questions. First, how much does he want for the down payment? And if what he says is more than you have, you do not slink away ashamed. You say plainly, I cannot afford that. And you would be surprised, you truly would, how often a fair man will come down on that number when he sees you are honest and steady and a person he can deal with. Second, you ask what rate of interest he wants on the deal. Understand what you are being told here. He is going to charge you more than a bank would because the little bit of interest is what is in it for him. It is his reason to carry you all those years. That is fair enough. But know that these rates run high, and I have seen them asked at 8, 10, 12, in the 100 and more, and a high rate over many years is a great deal of money. So you treat that number as a thing to be talked about, gently, not simply a thing to be swallowed. Everything in one of these deals can be talked about. That is the beauty of dealing with a person instead of a bank. Now, say the terms sound fair and the man sounds decent. You are not done. You are barely begun, because now comes the part where you protect yourself. And this is where the honest teacher and the flattering one part company. You get the full legal address of the property, the county it sits in, all of it. And you go yourself with your own 2 eyes to the county's own records on their website or at their office, and you check 2 things before you let your heart get any further ahead of you. The first is the zoning. You are looking for the word agricultural. Residential and agricultural together is fine. That is common on a small piece, and it is what you want. Strictly agricultural is fine too, but that word agricultural must be in there, because without it you cannot keep the animals, you cannot raise your own food, you cannot make the piece into a homestead at all, and then what was the point? And you check this yourself. You do not take the seller's word, nor the neighbor's, nor anyone's, because people will tell you what you wish to hear to make the sale, or they simply do not know and say whatever comes into their heads. Your own eyes on the county's own record. That is the rule. The second thing, while you are there, is whether the land sits in the flood zone, what they call the 100-year flood zone. You do not want it. A piece that floods is a piece that is damp and wet and swampy and thick with biting insects. And if you mean to keep animals, wet ground is sickness and misery for them and for you. You want ground that is high and dry. Check it on the county map before you ever drive out. And then, if the zoning is right and the flood zone is clear, you drive out and you walk it. Telephone the owner first and arrange it proper so you may walk the whole piece slow and look at it honest. Look for a well, for that means water is already on the land, and that is a fine thing, a real saving, though you can always drill one later if the deal is good enough without it. And more pieces than you would think already have a well and a septic and power run to them, because there was once a house or an old trailer on the ground that has since been hauled off or burned down or fallen in. Those leftovers are a quiet gift. Look for them. But here is the thing about walking the land that I want you to hold on to, and it is a hard-won piece of traveler sense. Not every good deal is a good deal. I have watched people leap at a price because it was low, wonderfully low, crowing about the bargain, and then find out too late that the cheap piece was cheap for a reason. Steep as a roof, half of it unusable, or a paper called 2 acres of which only a little corner could ever be built on, while they paid the taxes on the whole of it. A low price on bad ground is not a bargain. It is a trap with a nice number painted on the front of it. So you walk it, and you want it generally flat and generally usable, every part of it earning its keep because you chose a small piece on purpose, and you cannot afford to have half of it be a hillside you can only look at. Flat, dry, usable, and zoned right. That is the deal worth having, whatever the price. Now, the trap, the one I promised you. Listen to this part twice if you must, because this is the part the flattering teachers leave out, and it is the part that can take everything from you. When a man sells you land this way and carries the loan himself, very often the paper you sign is a thing called a contract for deed or a land contract. And here is what you must understand about it, deep in your bones, because it is not like a bank mortgage. Under this kind of contract, in most places, the seller keeps the legal title, the actual deed, in his own name until the very day you make your final payment, years and years from now. You do not truly own it yet. You hold what they call an equitable title, a right to it, but not the deed itself. And that means this: if you fall behind on your payments, even years in, even after you have paid a great deal, in many states that seller can cancel the whole contract, take the land back, and keep every dollar you ever paid him. You could pour years of payments and sweat and fence and garden into that ground and lose all of it, the land and the money both, from one bad season. That is the trap. It is real, and it has swallowed good, honest families who were never warned about it. So I am warning you the way I would warn my own. This does not mean do not do it. I did it, and it changed my life, and it can change yours. It means you do it with your eyes open and your paper right. Here is how you protect yourself against the trap. Get every single term in writing, all of it. The price, the payment, the interest, who pays the taxes, and above all, plainly written, exactly what happens if you fall behind and how much time you are given to put it right. A fair contract plans for a bad month. A trap stays silent about it. If the paper says nothing about what happens when you stumble, that silence is the danger. Record the contract with the county. Take it down to the county register and have it put on the public record. This costs little and it matters enormously because it plants your claim to that ground in the public books where no one can quietly pretend it does not exist. And know that the law on this is different in every state, wildly different. Some states protect a buyer who has paid off a good share of the price and will not let the seller simply snatch it back. Others give you almost nothing. You must find out which kind of state you are standing in before you sign, and that is not a thing to guess at. Which brings me to the two helpers you do not skip, no matter how tight your money is, because they are cheaper than the disaster they prevent. The first is a title company. For a fee, and they do charge, a title company does all the digging to make certain the man selling you the land actually owns it, and that there are no old debts, no liens, no ghosts from the past hanging on the property that could become your problem the moment you sign. You do not do this on a handshake. I know the handshake feels honest and old-fashioned and good, but I have seen the handshake deal end with a family who built up a whole homestead, every improvement, years of work, and then heard the seller say thank you very much and try to take it all, and off to court they went into the worst nightmare of their lives. Go through the title company. Get the title insurance. It is the cheapest peace of mind you will ever buy. And the second, and I will say it plainly, even though the man in the original telling of this does not, before you sign a contract for deed, have a real lawyer read it, one who knows land in your state. I am an old traveler telling you what my people learned. I am not a lawyer, and I am not your lawyer, and neither is anyone else making a video on the internet. The knowing I give you is how to find the door and how to see the trap. The paper that binds you for the next 10 years of your life deserves an hour of a real professional's time, and that hour is nothing against what it protects. Spend it. Do all that, and then, when the zoning is right and the ground is dry and the title is clean and the paper is fair and recorded and read by someone who knows, you sign your name and you seal the deal, and you are a landowner, a person with no money and no credit and no welcome at any bank, standing on ground that is becoming your own. I have felt that moment twice in my life, and I promise you there is nothing else quite like it. Let me leave you with the true heart of it, the part that is bigger than the paperwork. My people wanted a patch of ground for centuries and were told, in 100 ways, by 100 authorities, that it was not for us, that the door was closed, that people like us did not own land. And some of us found, quietly, patiently, honestly, that the closed front door was never the only door, and that a person with nothing but their word and their willingness to work could still come to own a piece of the earth if they were patient enough to find the way in and careful enough not to be robbed along the way. That is what I am handing you. Not a trick, not a scheme, an old and honest way that the people with nothing have always used, cleaned up and told to use straight, trap and all. Go small, be honest, check it with your own eyes. Get the paper right and get it read. And do not let anyone, not a bank and not a seller and not the whole way to feeling hopeless, tell you that the ground of this earth is not for the likes of you. It is. My people were told it was not for 500 years, and here I stand on mine. So tell me, down in the comments, where in the world you are dreaming of your patch of ground, and what is standing in your way. And if this is the year you finally start scouring those little papers, you tell me, because I would dearly love to hear it. I read every one of them. Next time, I'm going to show you what to do with those 2 or 3 acres once they are yours. How my people laid out a whole living on a small piece of ground the old way, so that not 1 foot of it is wasted. Subscribe so it finds you when it comes. Until then, go small, keep your eyes open, get your paper right, and never once believe the door is closed to you until you have tried every last way in.